We can't start saying that, okay, we will review changes, we will review merge requests, we will review pipelines, we will review everything, right? The idea is that you put enough guardrails into the system so that people themselves can manage their infrastructure, manage everything on cloud, etc. as well, but in a way that they cannot damage your systems, they cannot go beyond a certain limit. So that is what the entire concept was around. Because the point that where we're talking about that there used to be a central team managing changes, and so we used to have admin privileges on a couple of folks, and they used to basically make those changes. That perception and that team etc is now changing. So developers are becoming smart enough to manage infrastructure. The way forward is that we will give them, say, full permissions on whatever they are building, etc. So the concept of you build it, you run it comes in, and how security can play a role there, what we need to do, how we need to basically come into the picture is something that I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so
Interesting.
something we need to keep in mind because we are not much familiar with means somewhat familiar, but not that much familiar with DevOps.
Yeah,
So
so you don't
some
need
some overlapping or something we need to learn, something like that.
Yeah, I will be talking about it in this course itself. We will be using, so I'm sure all of you have heard about configuration management solutions like Terraform, etc., right?
Yeah, configuration, CM and orchestration,
Yeah.
I know a
So
bit like Ansible and Terraform,
yeah.
etc.
So there are multiple solutions like that. Now, to, so there are three types of teams today, right? One team is basically who are doing changes manually, right? So a developer goes, reaches out to a team. Now, whether they can be a sysadmin or they can be a DevOps or they can be whatever you want to call it in your organization. They raise a request, they make those changes manually, they update the ticket, and your work is done, right? Some organizations are at a stage where teams are reaching out to individuals. The individuals are writing Terraform. The concept of infrastructure as code comes up, where everything is being written in Terraform. The person or the sysadmin is running the Terraform and then updating the developer that his infrastructure is ready, right?
Correct.
Third, what people now are moving to, and why we saying the first 2 points don't really, are not making sense in today's days, because they start becoming a bottleneck, right? When you have a ratio of say 1:5, where you say one sysadmin to five developers, or even to 10 or even to 20, still makes sense. But what if you have like 1:200, right? What if you have an organization where you have 3,000 developers, right? You can't keep scaling teams with manpower. So the idea is, and now what is being really talked about is a concept called as you build it, you run it. And the concept there is that the developer is no longer responsible only for code. They are responsible for infrastructure. They are responsible for spawning it, maintaining it, prod issues, operational issues, everything they will look at. What ops teams or DevSecOps teams will now do is security will build guardrails that, for example, a developer is coming inside your infrastructure. What can they actually do? What can they actually stay in their own boundaries, right? So for every infrastructure person, like, or every developer or every team, to start building up guardrails and boundaries so that they stay within that. They don't impact other people. They don't, change things which can actually damage your production systems. And devs or your DevOps teams are basically enabling these features. For example, giving you a UI to write Terraform, because you can't expect developers to come and write code, right, for infrastructure. There are some people who are very fluent with it. There are some people who are not. So how do you handle the 78, 60% of people who are not fluent with infrastructure as code? Then you give them a wrapper over it. So security is now an enabler team where they are just looking how to give enough empowerment to developers to run their infrastructure on their own in a secure manner. And your DevOps teams are building tooling now instead of going into the operational work that you're doing. How this model is successful is because you can scale developers to 4,000, 5,000, 10,000. At the end of the day, it is their responsibility to get their infrastructure up and running and get everything going. So we no longer become a bottleneck. So I will be talking something about this as well, where we will be discussing infrastructure as code and how we can set up enough guardrails to do that. But I will share my slides with all of you in case you're interested. We can have another discussion on it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Actually, it makes sense, Dhruv, because developers are no more developers today because they start getting involved in operations, and then security also becomes part of their responsibility. You know, so it's not someone else responsibility, and the security team nowadays has to provide the guardrails so that they can play within that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not only for security, even I was also talking about compliance at scale. So we also feel like have a great bottleneck in terms of say GDPR compliance, PCI compliance. Like there are companies operating in multiple regions like ours. We have to have different kind of compliances running in different regions. And when you have these compliances running, you cannot start taking everything upon yourself. So, for example, today on most companies, what happens is, for example, there is a resource which is not compliant to say PCI, right? What we do is we, as a security team, follow up with the developers to basically fix it. Again, in a model where you're running multi-region, multi-developers, it doesn't work. So you have to start shifting the ownership of these things to the development team. All that you need to do as a security team is to provide visibility, to say, okay, these are your number of resources, these are compliant, these are not compliant, and start pushing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
also to take care it in a big scale, I think that is where the safe structure, we call it as a scaled agile framework. Actually, it
yes,
helps really to do these activities in a scaled way in an organization, where security operations, even including IT, become an enabler there.
absolutely.
So
So most of the organizations, like wherever top organizations you're talking about, and if you discuss with security folks, so there was a whole concept of shift left which came up, which people are still discussing. Some people are still putting this in, where we said, okay, uh, there is a single point of entry into infrastructure, so we will start tagging over there, right? And we will start putting our checks and controls and balances in the pipeline itself. So, and the second concept was detect as early as possible so that your tech debt reduces. So that concept is also now started to fizzle out because people are facing a huge challenge with scale in all these things. So the only thing which is working now for at least people in like big organizations where you have multi-region, multi-compliance, multiple developers in different places is you start giving ownership to them. And security, DevOps, compliance, architecture all become enablers instead of becoming bottlenecks. So that is the whole concept.
interesting. If you can share the slides, if you have, or documents, it
I
would
will,
be
I will.
really
And if you want, it's just a our talk. I can also discuss it with you all also. Probably next class we can start with that. It'll just take about an hour or so.
yeah.
We will be discussing some parts of it for sure, like in shift left and compliance and all those things are there. So I will be touching upon them, briefly. But if you want to like, if you're interested in all those, then we can discuss it in depth. All right. So for today, I'm just going to begin with number one, creating your accounts on a AWS infrastructure where you guys don't have any restrictions, right? I gave you an assignment. I believe there were some restrictions in terms of permissions that you were also facing there, and even for us to learn, there were some permission issues which kept coming up. I've spawned an environment. I will be basically adding you here, so you will have full access to this environment. You will have admin privileges on everything. Uh, so the permission issues, etc., should
But
go.
yeah, but assignment I don't see it is uploaded. Only
Uh,
link was there.
Pranav, has that been assigned? So basically, I put it in there, but I could not assign it. So if it has been assigned, you should see it.
It has been
A
assigned, sir.
link is there to upload the assignment, but question paper is not there.
Ouch. Okay. Okay, we'll just check on that. That's not an issue. I mean, it's anyways not due today, so you can still work on it. But there were some issues that we were facing in the lab in terms of permissions. So I will just be giving you these permissions as well. So I'm just adding your accounts and sending you the links here. just log in into these accounts and you can use them for your labs or even during the class, etc. So just give me like 2 minutes. I will just add everybody in. So I'm just pasting it on the chat here for individual users. You can just use your link and just keep clicking on that, setting your password. The default password is Revite1234. You will have to change it once you log in. And also for just for simplicity's sakes, you can just use a different region altogether so that you don't clash with each other's work. So you can just call out one region that you're using so that you're not clashing with people. And also, if you're modifying any changes, I suggest you add a new user, login from that user, and then make changes. Don't make any changes to these users. Otherwise, you will get locked out and you will not be able to access those things anymore. So any work that you're doing, just create a new user and then you can modify policies and all that. Because we want to also play around with CloudFront, we also want to play around with the WAF as well. So doing all of that will give us a lot of permission issues. So I just said we'll work on it here. For everybody, the default password is the same. You can just change it.
I'm getting error, incorrect information. Parth.acharya only.
The username should be in the chat itself. What you're seeing.
It is Parth.acharya only. Reva@123.4.
Just share your screen once. What issue are you getting?
Incorrect information.
Just share your screen once. I'll just check again what I've set for you.
Your authentication information is incorrect.
Just give me 1 second. I'll just reset your credentials.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Just try again.
With the same credentials.
Yeah. With Reva with R capital at 1234.
Yeah, it worked.
Alright, sorry, might be a typo at my end.
Will it be the same username for all or?
No, it's going to change. I'm sending it to you on chat for one by one. I'm just creating your users and sending it to you. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Has everybody got the credentials? I mean, is there anybody left out who I haven't sent it to? Just let me know.
Hi, Abhijit here. I did not receive the credentials yet.
I have shared yours on the chat itself. You can just have a look. It's here on the chat itself. Just click on the link there itself. Just scroll up a little bit. Default password for everybody again. I'm just pasting is Rewind1234. You will be requested to change it when you log in. Just select different regions, whatever region you guys are working out of, just publish it here so that other people don't also look at it. Anybody who hasn't got it or facing any issues, then I'll start after that.
For me, it says you can't send messages because you're not a member of this chat. View the chat.
Have you logged in from your Reva ID?
No,
Actually,
not
it's
from the
logged in
Revive.
through an external ID, sir. So we could share it directly
Okay,
to.
I'll do that. One second.
I'll share it.
Oh
You
yeah,
can
you
share
can
it.
share it. You can share
Yeah.
with them.
Thank
For the other folks who have logged in, you guys can just very quickly create the infrastructure which we had created because we will be requiring that. So basically, what we need is one server in the private subnet working from an ALB. That's all, with a web server installed. So what we had done last time, you can just do that. I'll be showing that very quickly as well. But we'll basically start from there then. But this time you also, I mean, just set it up properly because this time it will not get deleted or your labs will not get killed. So you can just keep it running. So end goal is we have to have a machine in the private subnet behind an ALB for port 80 traffic.
I have shared the region here, US West, Oregon.
Yeah, that's fine. Just make sure nobody else is using it. Otherwise, you'll face clashes in terms of subnets, etc. as well. All right. To start with, anybody using Mumbai right now? Otherwise, I'll use that. Mumbai or Singapore, anybody's using? No. All right.
No.
All right. So, like what we done last time, I'm just going to refresh through this. I'm just creating the setup because we'll be using it for everything, including WAF, including CloudFront, including other things as well. So just very quickly, I'll be going through the entire setup. In case somebody is confused, let me know. I will reiterate that part, but otherwise what I'm just doing right now is creating a VPC, creating a subnet, which is private, which is attached to a NAT gateway, and that will basically I'll set up a machine, launch it in that subnet. I'll set up a load balancer, launch it in the public subnet, and connect to that machine on port 22 via network load balancer, and install a web server, which is Apache, which we done last time on that machine on port 80. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So good refresher. In case anybody's stuck, just let me know, please.
Yeah, I am getting problem actually. So the URL is asking me to sign in as an I am user, and then where I am putting I am username and the password what you have given, it is showing problem.
Just share your screen. It might have been that I have mistyped something again, but give me a second. Let me just restore it.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. You're using the revive1234 password, right?
Reva.
R capital there.
Reva at the rate, right?
Yeah, revive@1234. I'm just resetting it. Just give me 1 second. I've done that. Just try again now.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Might be a typo for my end. Apologies. So first steps, I've just created my VPC. I'm going to be creating two subnets here. Remember, for a load balancer, you will require two subnets, so just create two public and two private just for simplicity's sake. Otherwise, you'll have to do it later on. And just create them in two different availability zones. Otherwise, again, you will face issues.
So somebody is working in Northern Virginia.
Folks, just call out your regions, please, so that you don't have clashes. There are multiple regions. Somebody can use Singapore if they haven't used it. Somebody.
Path I have already mentioned in the group that I'm using that region.
I don't see.
In chat,
It's okay. One of you can just change your subnet. It'll be fine then.
can
I will.
you check?
Oh, before that I had posted. No problem. I'll change my region.
Thank you. I have already created two things. That's it.
Anybody getting stuck anywhere? Please let me know.
My system got restarted, so missed the part. So what exactly we need to create? Sorry, can you repeat that?
So we just need to create the infrastructure which we done last time. So that was basically getting terminated because the were getting terminated. So we just need to create a instance with Apache running on it in a private subnet behind a application load balancer for port 80 and a network load balancer for behind port 22 so that we can SSH on it. So that is what we need to create because we'll start from there in terms of getting the infrastructure up and running. Also, don't terminate this infrastructure because we'll require it for other things as well. So just make sure you're making it properly and there are no issues. And just operate in a different region as everybody's operating so that you don't have clashes. So what I've done up till now is I've created a VPC. I've created four subnets, two private subnets in 1A and 1B. That means two different availability zones. I've created two different private subnets in both availability zones 1A, 1B. I've created two route tables. One is a public route table which has which will have my internet gateway attached to it, and one will be a private route table which will have my NAT gateway attached to it.
Just one question.
Yeah,
So we are creating only two route tables. One is private and one is public.
that's
So
okay.
we have two subnet. So first subnet only, like first public and first private subnet only we are associating this route tables upon.
That's fine.
Oh,
You don't need to follow me here. I'm just doing this for a different purpose, which I will show you later on. Uh, but you can just follow simple setup in terms of one private, one public. Folks, any issues till now? Okay, anybody got this up and running? So you should have your test page up and running here, and you should have access into the machine. If you're stuck somewhere, please ask me. Don't be afraid of asking the question right now.
Dhruv sir, like the private one should not be accessible to internet, right? I mean, I'm just making the infrastructure.
Yeah, so basically the instance should not have a public IP to it.
Okay.
Right? It should only have a private IP, and we should be able to access it or do an SSH on it and HTTP port 80. So this is your HTTP port 80. So the instance doesn't have a public IP on it. It's coming in via the load balancer itself. So I created two load balancers, one as an application load balancer for port 80, and one I created a network load balancer for port 22. This is just to SSH into the machine.
Okay, so your network load balancer is also pointing to private. Your application is also pointing to private.
So yeah, this is forwarding to the same machine on port 22, and my second target group, which is HTTP, is pointing to the same machine on port 80. Both my load balancers are hosted in my public subnets.
Okay.
Right? Both my load balancers are hosted in my public subnets. So if
On
you
the
open,
public EC2 instance, you have not installed Apache, is it?
I have installed Apache on the instance. So I just went on the SSH and I installed Apache on it.
On the private EC2.
Yes, I'll just show that to you. So on this, I basically went and ran this command sudo yum install httpd. Once this ran, I started the service, and that's about it.
Can you just paste this command?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So these are the two commands I ran on the machines. And if you want to see the logs, then you can just run this command. Okay, let's break it up. Have everybody been able to SSH into the machines at least?
Creating load balancers.
I'm sorry.
Creating
Load
load
balancer creating,
balancer.
sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I have done SSH. I wanted this command. I'll execute.
Perfect. Okay. So your ALB will only come up once you install the Apache on the machine. Otherwise, it will keep showing unhealthy. Also, just observe another thing in the target groups, in the load balancers, in the application load balancer, in the target group for the port 80 health checks. I went and edited this for success codes between 200 and 499. Why I've done
Just a second. I'm not
Where is
seeing
it,
your
sir, again?
screen actually.
Sure, I'll show this to you again. So the target group I created for the application load balancer, right? If I click on it and if I go to monitoring or if I go under health checks, in the health checks, if you go here under advanced, I have changed the success codes from 200 to 499. So this you can give as a single code, or you can give multiple codes like this, or you can give a range. So any code coming between this, it will consider it to be up and healthy. Now, why I've done this is, let me just share my screen. Yeah. Why I've done this is because by default, if you hit the default page for Apache, right? Apache returns a 403. What your load balancer are expecting is expecting 200. So what you can do is you can only put in 403 here, or you can just put in a range here that any response code which comes between this to consider it to be healthy.
Okay.
We can change this default code if you want. That we can do from the conf. I'll show that to you as well how to do it. But for now, just make sure that you have this test page up and running. Also, in the application load balancer that we've created, we only have a target group which is pointing to a single machine at the moment. When all health checks fail and we only have a single instance, it anyways routes the traffic to that instance, even if health checks are failing. But if I had another instance, then that traffic would, and if both are unhealthy, then it would forward it one request to one, the other request to the other. I'll also show that to you. But for now, even if your health checks or your target is showing as unhealthy and you open this, you will realize that this page will work.
Mine is I installed the server, but it is not working.
For
So
that,
for network load balancer, the target for target group of network load balancer, we have to select instances, right? Target type.
yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Uh, so path for that, just run a very simple command. If you have SSH on your screen, just run a curl HTTP localhost. It should give you something like this. So basically the Apache default page should come. If this is coming, that means your Apache service is up and running.
Okay, I
If
was accessing from Chrome actually. I was trying to access from Chrome.
Yeah, it should work from Chrome, but not on this IP. On Chrome, go to load balancers, go to ALB, go to description, copy the DNS name from here and open it via the DNS name.
Okay, so ALB I have not yet created actually.
Okay, just create the ALB. If you install HTTPD, just hit a curl localhost and you should see this page come up. That means your Apache is installed and running. Now you just need to go create your ALB.
Sir, for the health check path for the HTTP load balancer, what do you give?
Yeah, I'll just show it to you. So in the target group, in the health check, I just went to edit.
Only
Under
route that.
Yeah, under advanced health check settings, I've just changed the success codes from 200 to 499.
Yeah, can you bit scroll up?
Sure.
root. I guess it's root.
Yeah, route health check path. Okay.
Yeah. This path is basically calculated from here. If this was on something like test, which doesn't work at the moment, right?
Right,
It
right.
will give you a 404. But if you want to test this out, you can also put in something like slash test over here. And because 404 still falls under a success criteria, it will still be up. But if you change this to only 200 and 403, right, then this will start failing on this path.
Hmm. Dhruv, one question.
Yeah.
In network target, like target for network, yes, target cannot. So private, you have added the private instance, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I've only created one instance. I've added that only one instance. It's in a private subnet. My
Okay,
load
got it.
balancer NLB is in a public subnet. So when you created your network load balancer,
It will be IP facing, internet facing, right?
yes, it will be internet facing in a VPC, which you will
Yes.
select either one. So it will be internet facing here.
Yeah. So
Right?
it will, if even though we choose select private, it will ask us to change it to public because it's
Yes.
internet.
Yes. See, the only difference between an application load balancer, right, and a network load balancer here, and why we use it like that, is you will realize if you run a dig command. Let me just share my screen again. So if I run a dig command on the DNS name for the application load balancer, you will see two IP addresses come up. Okay. If I run a dig command on the network load balancer, you will only see a single IP come up. Okay. If you continue to run a dig command on an application load balancer, right, and let the TTL expire, or if you keep generating more traffic, these IPs can multiply. Okay, so if you keep hitting a dig command again and again on this, on the ALB itself, you will see either your IPs change, right, or your IPs multiply. Now, this works perfectly when you can map this to a CNAME. For example, if I have a website, say example.com, and I can map this to a CNAME, that is fine. But if I need to give somebody a static IP address by saying, okay, I want to give you one single IP which does not change, in that scenario, you give them an NLB IP because this IP address will remain static. So if you keep hitting the NLB IP again and again and again, this IP address will not change. So people say in cloud, generally when I ask people, give me a static IP address, they say, oh, but we're using an application load balancer and we don't have a static IP. Okay, fine. But if you put an NLB before the application load balancer, in that case, you will have a static IP. So if you go to create load balancers, right? If you can also, when you're creating this, right, and you're creating a network load balancer, you can forward this to an application load balancer target group as well. I will show this to you, but first let's just get both of those up and running. So overall, I need two things running. I just need your shell running via SSH, and I need this test page running via the ALB IP. Those are two things that I require. And if anybody's stuck at any space, please let me know. Anybody done with?
For
Yeah.
ALB, I'm getting at least two subnet must be specified.
Yeah. So, like I told you also last time, when you are creating your subnet, that's why I said just create two subnets in two different availability zones, right? Because for an application load balancer, so if you see my public subnets, I've created one in 1A and I've created the other one in 1B. For any application load balancer, because of redundancy, we have to create two different availability zones and we have to give two subnets. That is not the case with a network load balancer. So by design in an
Right, right.
application load balancer, we have to give it.
Yeah,
Then
mine is done. I can see Apache test page.
perfect. Just hang on till there, till we'll just wait for everybody to come there. So Path, if you're done, what you can do is you can spawn another machine in a different availability zone from that you spawned it right now, and you can add it to the
Hmm.
application load balancer target group and see the behavior by bringing down Apache on one of the machines and see what happens to the requests.
So the new EC2 instance in private subnet.
Yeah. So for example, right now I've created this in AP South 1A. The second
Hmm.
instance you can just create in 1B, add
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
the target group that you have already as another
Hmm.
instance.
Hmm. Okay.
Get get the SSH also running on that. Install Apache, and what you can do is just kill Apache on one machine while you're continuously hitting it. See what
Hmm.
happens to the request. Does it switch? Does it not switch? Does it still keep sending it to the same machine? What happens? How does it load balances? You can look at all of that.
So I can use the existing NLB because this time I have kept both the subnet in one
Absolutely,
zone.
absolutely, you can.
Hmm. Okay.
Dhruv, can I share my screen?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm not able to connect. I don't know where I missed it. This is the private one. Is the
What
skin visible?
you're
Skin
in
visible.
Virginia, right?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm saying you're in North Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I'll just check.
Okay.
Okay, so from your VPC setup, things look okay. Only thing you missed out here is on your second private subnet. Uh, you haven't added the route table with the NAT gateway, so you can just correct that later on. But that's not the problem. That
Yeah,
is,
yeah, because it is anyway, I'm not using that as of now.
yeah. But now let me just go check here.
Do I need?
Sorry. Okay, so oh, my bad. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, things look good from this perspective. When you're connecting, what is happening?
Can you?
I can reach OpenSSH here as well. So, wait. So this is your network load balancer on port 22. I did a telnet on it. I'm being able to reach SSH. Can you just show me what the issue is, what you're facing when you're
One
connecting
second, one second. I was directly trying to connect through
through?
EC2 instances. There is
Ah,
option of connect, right?
no. So you'll have to use, see,
Yeah,
because
okay. Got it.
in anything when we've gone private, so even if you use a connect option, right, you will not be able to use this until a public IP is installed on the instance, right? So this feature will
Got it.
not, what you will have to do is use the SSH from here. So the key file that you've downloaded here, which is the test
Yes.
private instance one key, just use this key and connect to it.
Okay, I need to down. Okay. Putty is not download. I will download the putty and try to SSH it.
Yeah.
Dhruv, in
Yes.
NLP target group, both the private instances are there. But if I do SSH, then on which it will get connected?
Check that out. That's what I want you to check out.
Okay. Because user is easy to hyphen user only, no?
Absolutely.
I'll
But
check.
The IP will change. So hit an SSH once and hit an SSH twice, then hit it thrice, see where you reach.
Okay, okay.
Anyone else facing any issues till now?
So I'm connected on network load balancer to the private. From private, I'm not able to access the internet. So we need to put the NAT, right? Yeah.
Yes. Can you just share which region you're operating in?
Oh, yeah. That.
Yeah, so here you just need to add an ad gateway in your private subnet first.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will not be able to reach the internet on that machine that you launched.
Yeah, from the machine.
Yes.
So that gateway should be in private subnet, right?
Yes. See, NAT as a concept, if you're clear, it does nothing but converts private subnets IPs to public, right? So just using the same concept, something is in a private subnet. I need to convert that to a public IP to talk to the internet. So I will use a NAT gateway.
Okay, so this connectivity type, I remember I asked last time also. So this will be public or private?
For which one?
At when you're creating the
For
NAT,
NAT.
there is a
Yeah. So let me clear the doubts here, right?
yeah.
What is the difference between this, right? A
Yes.
public NAT gateway is nothing but where you are getting any connections internal to your VPC and you want to convert it into a public IP on the internet. Okay. What a private NAT gateway does is it is used for peering your internal connections. For example, you have a data center, you have an office, you have multiple three, four clouds that you're using, right? Now you want to associate all those clouds and have a single public IP address. Okay, your call center you want as one IP address, your office you want as a single IP address, your AWS instances you want to have a same IP address, whatever you're using, right? In that case, we use something called as a private NAT gateway. Private NAT gateways associate all traffic from anywhere that either within your VPC, from a different VPC via VPC peering, from any office which you have via VPN, from any data center via something called as direct connect, which is nothing but an MPLS link, which is nothing but just consider it to a side to side VPN. Okay. So I get all of that traffic here. So now what this NAT gateway does is it associates all that traffic and converts it into traffic within your VPC. For example, I can have 172.16 blah 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 blah. I can have 10.100 blah 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 blah, right? But at the end of the day, for that traffic to come here and reach the internet, I need to convert it into my VPC IP. Okay. I drop all that traffic into my VPC, and from my VPC, I can then direct it to the internet using a public NAT gateway or using an internet gateway. Now you're asking, you can ask me how all this happens. It's very simple, but couple of things. So there are transit gateways that we can use, and then there are virtual private networks that we can use to get all the traffic. When we create these virtual private networks and transit gateways, in the route tables itself, you basically go here, and if you go to your routes, we can basically add a route by saying, for example, my office IP was 10.100.0.0/16, right? In this case, I wanted to use side to side VPN. So you will just say either say a peering connection. If you have another VPC, if you have an office, you can just say VPN something, right? Once you created it, or if you have a transit gateway, you can give the transit gateway here. So now what happens is all of that traffic is landing here, and any traffic landing here which wants to go out to the internet, it will use your internet gateway. But if you wanted to use a single IP address, you can just convert this to your NAT gateway as well. Why will everything that is hitting on a NAT gateway use a single public IP address? Is because when this gets subscribed, or I'll just show it to you in my region once. If you see, this elastic IP address is always fixed. So even if I go on this machine and if I do a, sorry, My connection broke. Yeah. So can you see my terminal?
Yeah, I can see your terminal. Why do you have two NAT gateway IPs, sir?
I'll show that to you. I just created it for a different reason, but right now I'm just using one of them.
Okay.
Right. If I hit this, you will see that I'm getting the public IP 52.66.254.18, which is nothing but this public IP. So when people ask you, hey, what is the public IP address of your AWS infrastructure? I am a third party. I need to whitelist you. You don't need to be afraid and say that, hey, I'm on cloud and I have multiple IPs and all that. No, you can send everything to a NAT gateway, and from the NAT gateway you can send that traffic out. So always when
You
I'm
can give the NAT gateway. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
always when I'm communicating to any third party, I will always use this IP address. Now you can ask me
Okay.
another question that, hey, our NAT gateways, can they get blocked? They are horizontally and vertically scalable. We don't need to take care of that. Amazon takes care of that. So you can keep pumping in more and more traffic on this. It will automatically keep scaling.
But people give a range for the like outside IP. When we ask for whitelist, they give a range. Okay, you can give this range in a whitelist. So NAT gateway can do that, or it's a single IP?
You can do that, but in that scenario, what you will have to do is you will have to go to Amazon and you will have to tell them that, hey, I want a Amazon pool of IP addresses, right? Or you want a specific pool that you own. So when you create the IP addresses that you have, right, you will get EIPs. And in the EIPs, when you go to NAT gateways and you're creating a NAT gateway, instead of saying allocate elastic IP, you can select your own IP address.
Select your own IP.
So that is
So
where
it can have multiple IPs, a single NAT gateway.
yeah, absolutely. No, but not in a single NAT gateway. It will be out of one of the IP addresses that you have selected in your elastic IPs.
Yeah.
So NAT gateway will always have a single IP.
Yeah, it will have a single IP, but it can take anyone from the pool which we
Yes, but it will be from within your pool that you selected.
Yeah. So and when we give to the clients, we need to give that pool because it can be from any one of them.
So where this concept comes in is that when you have multiple regions and multiple NAT gateways, and we do require multiple NAT gateways, because I'll tell you why, right? In that, instead of saying that, okay, I have one IP is 52, one IP is 3, if you go to different region, these IP addresses change. You go to Amazon and tell them, give me a pool of IP addresses, right? And then you always just share that pool of IP addresses to your third party by saying that, okay, anywhere within my AWS account, if I want to make a connection, it will always be coming out of these IP addresses. Then you don't need to go to individual accounts, pull up elastic IP addresses, and then tell them to that, okay, hey, whitelist this, hey, whitelist that. Okay, you can just give them that entire pool is available with you, and you can do it. Another thing that you can use and it comes useful is that sometimes I might not want to give or I might not want to create an application load balancer or network load balancer. I might just want to create a machine and give it to a third party, right? In that scenario also, when we say that this has a public IP address, it uses nothing but elastic IPs at the backend. So when you have got a pool assigned to you, you can be assured that the IP that you're getting from Amazon for a public instance will also be part of that pool. So you don't need to get that separately whitelisted to another person then.
Okay.
Additionally, you also bring in your own IP addresses. For example, if you've been on a data center and you have a ISP and they've already given you a pool of IP addresses and you say, okay, I don't want to use Amazon's, I want to use my own, you can also do that. You can come here, right? There's an option where you contact them because you have to create a pool first, right? And then you can put your entire public IPv4 pool and you can just select that. It will always use your own IP addresses and go out. But in that case, you need a direct connect, or there is something called as a customer gateway. You have to create this between you and your ISP. So traffic will go out from the instance to the NAT gateway to the internet gateway. But the internet gateway, when you select an Amazon pool, it selects one of the public IPs that Amazon has. So it has a route going forward. But when you're bringing your own IP addresses, you need to send that traffic to your ISP for the ISP to be able to route it. So we need to create that connect between the ISP also first. So there are multiple things that we can do in terms of networking. It's cloud,
Yeah.
not
So I
limited.
created the NAT, but still not able to connect.
Okay, let me
Bro,
check.
actually, I'm facing issue while pinging the Google data. I'm able to
Your
take the
NAT
SSH.
gateway should be in public subnet, Siddharth, not the private subnet.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be in a public subnet. Otherwise, it
Public
will not
subnet.
outbound. Yeah, Prithviraj,
And
sorry, you
there
were.
is no downtime, Dhruv. The page is working as usual.
Sorry.
I didn't face any downtime. I stopped the first instance.
Mm-hmm.
It is working fine.
Yep. I mean,
Uh,
You can check in Sydney. You can check in Sydney.
I will just come there. I will just check. That's the requirement that we need, and I will be talking about how load balancing exactly works. So I just wanted you to just do that, and because you finished it. But yeah, I will just come to that.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
Bro,
So
I'm facing same issue last time I faced. I'm not able to ping to google.com or like I tried to install HTTPD, but it was not working.
you're in Virginia, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. So your NAT gateway is also created in the private subnet. It needs to be created in the public subnet.
Okay. 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 With
That's the.
the same one, which is okay.
Yeah. So you need to delete this one, and then you need to basically create a new one.
Does it take long time to delete, sir?
Yeah, it'll take about 5 minutes because it has to deprovision. You can create a new one and you can attach it to your
Yeah.
sub then. So let that keep deleting. With that, you can create a new one and start attaching it in the time that this is getting deleted.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Creating also takes.
I'm sorry.
Creating also taking time.
Yeah, it takes time to provision because it needs to get an EIP and attach it.
Anybody is using Virginia? Because I see there is some gateway getting created. Hello? Did anyone check?
Sorry,
Somebody else is also using Virginia. Not you.
Northern Virginia. Okay, it is by default first
Yeah,
one, no?
yeah.
I am in Sydney.
How's weather there?
Hey, when did you go?
Few hours back.
There's so many regions and we're still having clashes now.
Weather is good.
There was one person in my team, like AWS team, so he remembered all the like regions.
Abhi, one lab, Nat Public. Who's that?
Yeah,
Delete,
Krita,
delete,
it's me, Krita.
delete it.
Can you,
Delete it, Krita.
can you please change because I'm
Yeah.
almost done.
Okay.
It's okay, you can share.
Yeah, mine is done, sir. Apache opening.
Yeah, I see two people here. That's fine.
Krita, it's saying unable to delete. Can you see? But still, I have tried it. Can you please
No,
confirm?
it's fine. I'm on
Delete it.
different thing.
I have deleted otherwise. Okay.
US West is empty. US West 2 is empty if anybody wants to use those. No, US West 2 is also not empty. No, it is empty. You can use both US West 1, US West 2 is empty. I think Europe is also going to be empty. So,
No, I am in Sydney.
okay. So you can
Mine
use
is
your
Ohio. Yeah.
you can use Europe also, all of them are empty.
How many are fields? You can just say.
All right. Folks, just take a 10-minute break. We'll just come back and hopefully all of you have got the setup up and running. What we're going to be doing now is how to investigate what kind of traffic is coming from where, who's sending it, who's generating it, how do we look at those logs, etc. So that is something now that we'll be generating. Why I made you build this setup again is because we'll be using the same setup for WAF, we'll be using the same setup for CloudFront, we'll be using the same setup for log generation and analyzing. So just make sure that this entire setup is up and running. Uh, and just take a 10-minute
So
break.
do you
And
want us to private behind the load balancer? You were saying something, right? Or I have done
yeah,
only one network.
Yes,
so
yes, two.
all that you need to do here is that this test page should be running for you with the load balancer application load balancer
Mm-hmm.
ceiling, and you
Yeah,
should
read to
have
it.
SSH access on this on your machine. That's it.
Go to Sydney. You can check, but don't delete anything.
Yeah, as of now, I have one like private instance behind the load balancer. So do you want us to make another one and
No. Just one for now. That's something which I think Path had finished earlier, so I just told him to check something out.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's what
Which,
required
which
or
I'll be
not.
explaining to everybody as well, but yeah, we'll do it sometime. Right, folks. See you at 12:50 then. Just take a 10-minute break and come back.
Okay.
Hi folks, are we back?
Yes.
Okay. So what we've done right now is we've created a basic infrastructure for us to now move forward in terms of multiple aspects, security, etc. But we're now going to be more focused on the aspects of security. We've created basic infrastructure there. Now, how do we start looking at things? What do we need to look at? So this kind of infrastructure, yeah.
Sorry, Dhruv. I'm facing a issue with application load balancer.
Okay.
Previously, I created that was not working. So I've deleted target and load balancer. I have created target first now, and then trying to create the application load balancer, but still facing issue.
Okay. You're being able to SSH or no?
SSH is getting fine because network is working fine.
Okay.
For application, I'll share my screen. So I've created a target group, but it is not listing here.
Just give me one second. Was this associated with a old application load balancer at any time?
No, I have created new one.
But target group you're using the same thing, right?
No, even target group I have created just now.
Okay. Let's see. Just check now, it should be linked. You were selecting a wrong VPC there. So the VPC I think was a different one. I've just created it for you, just check.
Okay, let me. Okay.
Right. Just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So now anything we do on AWS itself, right? Any action, whether we are doing IAM or we're creating VPCs or we're modifying anything or we're creating EC2 instances, etc., right? All this data of whoever is coming and doing any changes in your account, right? gets logged to something called as a trail. Okay, trail has something called as management events. What does a trail look like? If you come here and you search for something called as CloudTrail, you will see under event history of whoever is doing what on what resource on what type of things. If you want more details of who's doing it, you can just click on it, right? And you will get the entire history or details of events as to who's doing what. Now, why is this useful is because anything that anybody does on our account, we can basically start pumping it into something called as a storage in Amazon is called as S3, and it has nothing but just consider this to be a bucket where we are just dumping our logs for whoever or whatever they are doing in our account in different regions, right? You can enable trails for a single region or you can enable trails for all regions that you want. If you go into these trails basically have nothing but JSON files in it. If you download one of these files and if you open it, sorry, I'll just share my full screen. Yeah. And if you open this, you will see details of yeah. You will just see details of everything that anybody is doing on your account, who is doing it, what are they doing, what do they want. All these things are basically detailed out and sent to a bucket over here, right? And this gets logged for all my different events. So anybody who's trying to do whatever they're trying to do will start getting logged into this bucket, right? Now, why is this essential and useful is because if I want to have a track of what somebody has come and done, whether it's malicious, whether it's fine, you can come and put this here. Now you can argue with me that, okay, there are some people who might have admin access and they might just come and delete this trail, or they realize that their log file is lying. For example, if their log file is lying, for example, here, they can just come here and delete this object, right? If I delete this object, I've basically lost out on audit logs for whatever is happening on my account. Okay. Now, how do I stop this, or how do I say that I do not want trails to be deleted, right? There is something called as permissions on a bucket, right? And in this, if you scroll down, you will see something called as a bucket policy. Now, in this, you will see who has rights to write into this bucket and get details from this bucket. Okay. So either we put in something over here that nobody, not even an administrator, can come and delete anything from this bucket. But again, that you'd have to do per bucket, or if I have like 10, 20, 30, 40 buckets, you'll have to come and do that from here. The other place we can do it from is that we go to IAM. We come to your users at the moment, all of you. So for example, if I just take any user at the moment, I have given them admin access, right? In admin access, it basically says you have full rights on everything. All right. Now, if I search for S3 also over here, right? You will see that you have full access on all resources. But what if you don't want somebody to come and not delete files from your bucket? What you can do is you can come to policies. Let's come here, right? Let's choose a service, which is basically S3. Okay. We come here under write. For example, you don't want to give somebody delete an object permission, right? You come to resources. And if this is only on a specific bucket, you can come here, select the ARN of this bucket and drop the ARN here. Oh. Okay. Now, what happens over here is that I have said that I will not give delete over this resource. And I create this policy.
The effect is allowed, sir, there.
It is allowed.
Oh my bad. Okay. I go here. You can name this anything. And we take this policy and attach it to any one of the user roles that we have. So we come here, okay, and we say add permissions, attach existing policy. You select this and you attach it, right? Now what happens here is that people or anybody who has access even on admin etc will not be able to come and delete it, but you will also need to restrict them from IAM to come and make this change here. So you made a policy, you attach it to a user, they will not be able to do it, but then they can come and they can always say that, okay, I don't want this policy to attach to myself. So I untick this and I delete it. So there has to be two policies. First, we have to restrict people from actually coming to IAM and making a change. Secondly, we need to make a policy for that specific resource.
If where you have added the ARN, instead of that, if we would have checked any, so all the object we couldn't delete?
Yeah, if you come here and if you just wanted, so for example, if I just create a policy, let's just test it out for one person. Let's go to policies. In this policy, let me just modify this policy itself. Okay, I come here and I say delete object, and instead of resources, I just say all resources. And I say review and I say save. Okay, who wants to test this out? Okay, I'll just attach it to yours. Just
I need to go to S3, right?
yes, just share your screen once. Yeah, now just go inside this bucket, anything, and just try deleting a object.
If it deleting specified object can't be undone.
Just go to, don't delete the folder, just go to an object.
Okay.
Yeah, just go inside. Just select anything. And just select any one of these objects. Just try deleting it now. Oh, just give me 1 second, sorry. Yeah, just type permanently delete.
Fail to delete. The information.
Yes. So now basically it's saying error is access denied, right?
Access denied. Yes.
Okay. But if any of the others try to do this, we'll be able to do that, right? But now there's a question here which comes up. Okay, I've restricted somebody from deleting something, but tomorrow because she has admin access, she can just come here and she can just check off this policy altogether and she'll be able to do it, right? So whenever we create such policies, and even if you have admin access here, right, we need to create another policy for people that they cannot come and detach this policy from here. So there will be two policies that will be created.
Okay.
Or because there are so many of you and I don't want, for example, to create one policy and attach it for everybody, I can just create a group. I can take that policy here. I can say, okay, attach it to all of these people and come here and say create group. Oops, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Now this policy is basically attached on all of you. Right, so if I come here, if I click on anybody's user, okay, you will see attached from group. This is come here. Is this clear?
Yes.
All right. For now, I'll just remove this. Okay. Moving on. Let's say that we have some investigation that I want to do. For example, you want to find out who's come and deleted this object, right? Now, there are few ways that you can do it where you say, okay, you come and type on a resource name and you enter that resource name over here itself. Okay. Now, what does a resource name look like? If you come to S3 and let's see who's done what on this, and you want to find out what is the activity that has happened on this bucket itself, you can just come here and you can copy this bucket's name over here, enter it in the resource name, and you will find all events which have basically come up and have got anything to do with this bucket, right? If you want, you can just click on this. You will see all details, basically what we're trying to do, who's trying to doing what, right? You will see all of that come up here. Okay, so initially this bucket was created. There's an access policy been trying to put in all that, right? You will see all these details coming up here in respect to a specific object. Similarly, if you want to do this for a specific instance, or you want to see who's created what, you can just come here, copy the instance ID, come to event history. Sorry. Click here and you will see all details with regarding to this resource, where it was attached to, how it was attached. You will see all that details come up. Now you can ask me why I'm not seeing everything, because I started creating the CloudTrail logs after I created the instances. Okay. Now all this sounds good and is fine, but for example, if I need to go look at multiple logs for like multiple days, currently this is still limited. I am still being able to do it very quickly in all of that, right? But what if I need to go look at tons and tons and tons of logs? How do I do that, right? What we do is we just come here and click on something called as create Athena table, right? We first, first we need to basically go and create a space where we will store our results. So Athena is nothing but like MySQL kind of interface where we will basically be able to query these logs. Okay. This name has to be universal across AWS. No matter how many accounts exist in AWS with whatever companies, this name has to be universal, right? If you have this name in a different account, and if I'm trying to create it here, it will not let me create it. Okay, now that I have the bucket here, I click on create Athena table. Just refresh this. Wow. Okay, we select the source. We say create Athena table. Let's go to this table. We click on explore the editor here, right? Now in query editor, it's factually very simple. You basically got a table over here, right? Everybody's comfortable with MySQL.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we do is we just fire a query, and what we do is we just take this from here and we just run a limit command. Okay. Sorry, I'll just set this up. So basically we need to put in where we will be dumping our data. So that's why I just created that bucket where we'll be dumping that data. Sorry. Okay, now we can come to editor and we run this query. What you will see over here is the full details for that basically start punching out over here. For the entire bucket, wherever I've got all these details basically start coming out here. Now, if you want to filter out on say a specific IP address or a specific user agent or a specific region or anything that we want to look at in terms of username or resource ID, etc., right? We can look at all of those details here itself. For example, if I want to look at, we just do where AWS underscore region. Is the field okay? String only, right? Give me a second. Apologies for this. Okay, sorry, single quotes, that's my fault. Okay, so you can filter out things basically like this over here. If you want to filter out a specific event name, for example, if somebody's done anything like delete, right, and we just add this. So we see there's nothing like delete over here, right? If you want to see something, there's like create. We run this, again nothing. We run something like modify, which is my query even okay. Yeah, so now you'll see all things relating to describe. If you want to just see something more specific, you just add that. So now you'll just see everything related to tags. Any questions on this? Folks, any questions on this?
Not as such.
Okay.
No.
All right. All right. Okay. Just remember that you can search for anything inside JSONs as well. You can search for anything in terms of IP addresses as well. So whatever you see in CloudTrail over here, right? You can search for all this information regardless where it is coming in from. Okay. There's another way of doing it as well, which is basically you can download it as a CSV or JSON as well, and then go through it and use filters, etc., which is a okayish way to do it. But again, there is a lot more that you need to do when you have multiple logs coming in. So size will get huge. You will not be able to run that full query. Plus, this will be limited to, I think, 10,000 events, etc. only in maximum that you can pull out at one point in time. Okay. One thing that we will do before we break for lunch is just go into your VPCs. And in your VPCs, you'll find something called as flow logs. Before you get there, just go to S3 and create a new bucket. You can call that bucket whatever you want. I'm just going to call it. You can leave everything else as is and just create that bucket. Come to your VPC, click on flow logs, just say copy the ARN of the bucket that you just created from properties. And just click on create flow log. You should see something like this over here. And under the bucket that you've created, you should see a folder get created, and that should be empty. It'll punch it in every 10 minutes. Additionally, just go to your subnets, and on your subnets, click on flow logs. You should see a flow log filter come up over here. You should also see it on all your subnets that you have. So this should be prevalent in all 4 of them. If it's not, let me know. Once you've enabled this, just let me know and you can head for lunch, and we'll catch up at 2:30 then. You should just see a folder structure getting created like this, and that's about it. Folks, once you've enabled it, you can go for lunch and we'll catch up after that. If you're having any troubles enabling it, I'm here.
So we don't have to put any, only instead of send to CloudWatch log, we have to make it to send to Amazon S3 bucket. That's it, right?
Yes.
Any filter?
No filters. Just click on all, no filters. And additionally, just create the, you have to create the bucket and put the ARN over there.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. So you should just see something like this come up on your VPC in the destination name. That's about it. And you should see these 2 folders come up with 0 objects. It will start populating it in 10 minutes.
Okay. Yes. Log will come in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. You can head for lunch. By the time we're back, we should see some data here.
Sure.
Okay, so 2:30.
Yeah, 2:30. Just as an example, if some of you are already seeing this, so this is what it should look like. Just one file which basically came up in my things, but we'll get more data. That's okay. Cool. 2:30 then, guys. Thanks.
Yes.